Network present
Touchdown Cowboys!
Dallas Cowboys football 2025 in crystal clear HD stereo. Today's pregame show is brought to you by
Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com. Invest like your icons with Blockchain.com. Tito's Handmade Vodka. Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's original craft vodka. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiafalo and Bryan Broaddus.
Well, good morning. Happy Sunday. And for the final time this season, we welcome you into the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys in New York to take on the Giants. And we got you for the next 3 hours, ladies and gentlemen. Eric Chiafalo alongside the Super Bowl champion Bryan Broaddus, loaded here in the pregame show, as always, behind enemy lines with the voice of the Giants, Bob Papa, coming up here in a few minutes. We get the Moose, Fox Sports' Daryl Moose Johnston, live from the field at MetLife Stadium, coming up later this hour as well. Brad Sham, Bobby Belt, Christy Scales, and it is great to be with you for the final time. Broaddus, a please God don't get injured game.
This is, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think there's a lot of questions about how Dallas is going to play this game. I've talked to several people in the organization this morning. I've asked how Joe Milton's looked at practice. I've been thinking, hey, tell me how the young runners are looking. You know, there's a lot of things going on in this football game that the Cowboys are going to have to navigate, as well as the Giants. This is one of those games where you don't want to all of a sudden having to be dealing with an injury going into 2026 that, you know, that maybe you could have avoided. So I've kind of been hearing split things on Dak Prescott. I guess today I'm going to find out which one of my sources are the absolute best when it comes to identifying these things.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see an offensive line that's going to be pretty much where they need it to be as long as Dak's in there. We'll see with Hoffman playing the left guard spot. I think Smith is going to play as long as Dak is in the game. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts going on here. And depending on, you know, we get a chance to visit with Bob Papa, you know, what's the Giants' demeanor going into this game? Last week they went ahead and said, you know, we really don't care about having the first overall pick. And so they might be trying to find a way to get back-to-back wins here, you know, to end the season.
You know, one of the funny things I saw from the Giants' standpoint is they have their tight end, Theo Johnson, listed out with an illness.
Yeah.
And then he's sitting courtside at the Knicks game at MSG.
Yeah.
So that is pretty funny there in what is, for all intents and purposes, a meaningless game here in Week 18. And we're just trying to stay healthy, maybe get a little bit of a look-see at some of these guys. I think that's the one seed of excitement for today is we're going to get some Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa action,
Phil
rookie
Maffa,
backs.
Yeah, Phil Maffa, you know, getting activated. You know, you're going to see Butler in this game this week. So
Josh Butler at corner.
Yeah, there's going to be there's going to be several of these players that we've kind of wondered throughout the year. Like, okay, what would this guy look like? Josh Butler was a guy when we were talking in training camp as a guy that might be one of these guys that you would see, and then he got injured, and then, man, it's taken him, 17, 18 weeks to get back out on the field. And so, you know, hopefully they'll get an idea of him. But you're right about the young backs. The thing that you would have to worry about a little bit is Giants, blitz protection, stuff like that with these young guys. You know, if Blue is in there, you know, you might worry about that a little bit. Maffa seems like a guy that when he was doing it during training camp and then also during the preseason games that he had a handle on it. But, you know, you never know when teams start to bring different level of rushers and things like that, that maybe you don't want any unnecessary hits on Dak because you messed up a pickup.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing about this game right now. You obviously have a bit of a makeshift offensive line you have for weeks now with Tyler Smith having to play left tackle, but then you get TJ Bass injured at guard, so now you'll get the Hoffman situation there.
Yeah.
And then the rest is, status quo with BB and Booker and Steele. But Javonte Williams, part of the reason why he's been so awesome this year, not only what he's done on the ground, but in pass protection. You saw with Malik Davis and the blitz pickup stuff, the drop-off is real. Now, Javonte and Malik both injured and not playing, so you throw the rookies in there, their first test versus a pass rush that is pretty legit.
Yeah.
You got Brian Burns, and you got Abdul Carter, and you got Thibodeau, all these guys that are going to be trying to hunt down Dak Prescott. And so keeping him upright is going to be of the utmost importance here. And I wonder, it doesn't obviously seem like they have like a set snap count or anything
they
like
really
that.
Don't.
They want. It's just how much is Dak getting, how much is the pressure and the hits starting to pile up. You don't want to risk that for 4 quarters.
Yeah, it's really, as I mentioned earlier, talking to people, they were like, listen, Dak could probably be out of there pretty quickly. And then you talk to somebody else, and they're like saying, no, Dak is going to go as long as Dak can go. Until, and I just had a chance to visit with Brad Sham this morning, and
How's Brad doing?
Brad's doing well. His idea was that, listen, only the head coach knows how long, and I think that's going to be the eyeball test. I think I think that we've talked about it here the last 2-3 minutes. Is how is it looking up front? Is your offense able to run? It's not like the Jets game where you have 4 different starters on the offensive line trying to protect Dak. You've got guys that really, with the exception of like the left guard, you'd love to have Bass in there, and that would kind of give you a little bit more continuity. But this offensive line this year has given up some hits. And they've given up some pressures, and it's been Dak Prescott's ability to move around, buy a second chance, find an open receiver. And you talked about Williams' ability to block. That does not go underrated. That's something that you should absolutely. I mean, his ability to kind of clean up messes is key, and not having him or Davis in the lineup. And Davis has had his struggles as well, but. Man, the Giants, if they're interested in getting pressure, here it is. You've got, rookie running backs that are going to, and I imagine you might see a lot of Hunter Lipke playing running back this game.
Good point.
And Hunter Lipke coming off the concussion, all that. This might be just a Hunter Lipke's your starter, and you just kind of use him, and then you kind of work in Blue and Maffa as see fit.
Yeah, they're your runners, and then when you need a pass protector,
they come out,
have Lipke
and you got Lipke in there, or you just keep a tight end and you just max protect that thing and try and do your best you can to see. The one thing that the Giants have struggled with is with the pass defense. If the Cowboys are at the bottom, the Giants are right there with them, near the bottom when it comes to actually having to deal with play action passes and things like that. The metrics will tell you that they've really had some struggles there.
Yeah, Giants side of things, just looking at some of the reports, they plan to approach the matchup as if it's a normal game. Most of the starters playing, and Mike Kafka, the interim head coach, says going straight through all 60 minutes or whatever it takes. So New York has lost the last 9 times versus the Cowboys here. So they're looking to end that streak. Of course, Dak has been dominant over the years versus the entire division, but especially the New York Giants. So try to keep that streak alive as well. But a lot more questions than answers as we approach this final game of the season with the Cowboys in New York. Let's go behind enemy lines with the voice of the Giants. Bob Papa joins us next right here on The Fan.
Cowboys fans, here's the game plan. Touchdown Tuesday at Take 5 Oil Change. Just wear your Cowboys gear and save
Shop us in-store or online and start your next adventure at Funtown RV.
2nd and 4. Burns gets a sack, forces a fumble, scooped up by the Giants, and running it into the end zone is Tyler Newman for the Giant touchdown. Spider-Man Brian Burns with the sack, forced fumble, and Tyler Newman with his first career touchdown and the Giants' first defensive score of the year, get Big Blue right back in it.
Boy, that's incredible. That's a great effort by Brian Burns, and Tyler Newman right there on the spot to score with it. That's stepping up. That's making a big play when you need one. Gotta have it moments.
2 hours and 44 minutes to kick off. Let's go behind enemy lines with the voice of the Giants live from MetLife Stadium. It's Bob Papa, ladies and gentlemen. Bob, good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Can't believe we're here in Week 18. The season has flown by, even though it hasn't gone the way we wanted to on either side of this thing. But looking forward to one final ride here. And looks like the Giants are approaching this like somewhat of a normal game, trying to go get the dub.
I think so. I mean, you know, from an organization standpoint, you would like to have the number 2 overall pick. Probably won't have the number 1 overall pick because there's going to be teams that need quarterbacks, and you feel like you have a quarterback, and you could probably trade out of that number 2 and pick up more picks. But tell that to Brian Burns, who's trying to increase his sack total. You played that highlight. Tell that to Daniel Bellinger, who last week took like a huge shot trying to catch a ball over the middle. Like, if these guys step on the field between the lines, they're playing to win. Bob,
you mentioned with Jackson Dart and all that, and I love his play style. It's refreshing to see a quarterback play that way that he does. How has things been overall for him, though? The Giant fans have to appreciate his toughness.
Yeah, he is tough, maybe too tough for his own good, and this was a problem that he had at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
This is something that, they encouraged him to get down, get out of bounds, slide. Now, we saw last week against the Raiders, he took off and ran a couple times and did go out of bounds to avoid hits, so maybe something is sinking in a little bit. He's very aggressive. He's very spirited. And look, think about the numbers he's putting up with no receivers.
Right.
Darius Slayton, although the Giants paid him for some reason last offseason and gave him a 3-year deal, he has proven to be a guy that consistently drops big passes.
Yeah.
And, he's done this without playing and with Malik Neighbors. So if you get Malik Neighbors back next year and you go draft a quarterback, maybe you re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson if the price is right, and suddenly you look at Jackson Dart and what he could potentially be as a quarterback with actually having real weapons.
Bob, how about the rookie Abdul Carter and what he's brought to the table this year? Obviously a top flight pick coming in. How would you evaluate his rookie season?
Well, a lot of maturity issues. The previous head coach let too much slide as far as being on time, not being late, being accountable. And unfortunately for Mike Kafka, in his first game as the interim head coach, he had to not start Abdul Carter and sit him for a series. And then unfortunately for Mike Kafka, it happened again, and he missed the entire first quarter on that Monday night game against New Orleans. So, I think he was failed by not being held more accountable and was allowed to get away with a bunch of stuff. And we've seen since he's been held more accountable and more has been demanded of him, and with the new defensive coordinator that's figured out ways to use him, a la the way the Cowboys would use Micah Parsons, and not just line him up as an edge rusher, but line him up as an inside backer, line him up in a three-point stance, use him in a lot of different ways. We've seen Abdul Carter's game come around here, over the last 4 weeks, and I think Giants fans are excited about the potential that he brings to the table next year because he's got a whole world of talent.
Bob, for an organization that doesn't really always change coaches, here we are again. Where are we at as far as what type of coach would Bob Papa like to have with the New York Giants?
Your fans are going to laugh at this right now. But I'd hire Mike McCarthy. Okay? So you guys will laugh at that right now. And I understand the knock on McCarthy, but I had this argument with my sons. And I said, go to Pro Football Reference and look up Mike Tomlin's record.
Sure.
Regular season, postseason. Then look at John Harbaugh, and then go look at Sean Payton. Would you say they're all Hall of Famers? My sons all said yes. I said, now go look at Mike McCarthy's record. And they gave me the, all I see is the call sheet and wasting timeouts or not calling timeouts and mismanaging ends of games and losing. So they went and they looked. He has the same exact record as those guys over the same period of time. Now, there is a conversation to be had with not getting his team over the hump.
Right.
But when you win 3 games a year and you have the worst record in the NFL since 2017,
right.
Worse than the Jets, worse than the Browns. Pick your bad team. They're worse. Get me a guy that's been there, done it, knows, can walk into the locker room and say, I know how to win, follow what I say. And I guarantee you next year the Giants would probably win 6 or 7 games. And then I wouldn't be shocked if they had a run where they got to 10 wins, 11 wins for a couple of years in a row. Then you worry about, is he the guy to go win us a Super Bowl or not and take us over the top?
Right.
I mean, just think about the lack of winning that's been here since they last won a Super Bowl. And they've only been to the playoffs twice, 16 and 22. And they've had, people think back to the Coughlin, some of the later years where they were 8-8, 7-9. Giant fans would kill for a 7-9 season at this point. So, I know you say I'm crazy, but you go hire some of these hotshot coordinators who have never been a head coach before. How do you know how they're going to handle it? And this is like your market. This is different than other markets. This isn't like Tennessee.
Right.
This isn't like Jacksonville or Carolina. This is a whole different set of circumstances you have to deal with. So, believe it or not, Cowboys fans are probably in their car right now laughing like, this guy's a fool. But for that reason, I would say, hey, for 4 years, 5 years, let's roll with this guy and let's let this guy prop it up because he has a resume of winning in this league at a high level.
Bob, do you have a problem, and hopefully I'm not unfair with this question, do you have a problem with allowing this general manager to hire a guy?
The owners will hire the coach.
Okay.
The general manager right now is involved in the process of, doing all the due diligence, doing all the research, making the phone calls, putting whatever binder or book together that will be presented to the owners and the ownership families, the Mara families and the Tisch families, to look at and streamline. But I think at the end of the day, the owners are going to hire the coach.
Voice of the Giants, Bob Papa, with us here on The Fan. So, so you're thinking kind of like a crawl before you walk coach, right? Like, let's just get this plane off the ground a little bit, and then we'll worry about taking it over the top. I think that's kind of like what the Raiders were thinking with Pete Carroll. That kind of fell flat on him. But just get a guy that can get you back into NFL average. Can you go get us 8 wins or so and steady this ship a little bit, and then we'll go find our over-the-top hotshot coach maybe in the coming years. But is McCarthy, you think, really on their radar?
Well, he did interview, think about this. In 2020,
he did.
Before the Giants hired Joe Judge, he did interview here. Now, what was the Cowboys' record between 20 and 24 when Mike McCarthy was in Dallas, and what's the Giants' record since 2020?
Oh, no, McCarthy has clearly been better. I mean, that's no question about that. I mean, I would worry, Bob, about how important it is to him now. I think there was a certain level of laziness as a coach. I think there's a certain level of him really, and these coaches always talk about grinding it out and stuff like that. I just wonder about this guy because you're right. He's had a great deal of success, and how really important is it to him anymore? That's the thing I would worry about.
Well, the thing is with him, he kind of got drop kicked by the Cowboys. So all these guys have egos, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So he may come back re-energized.
That would be your hope. Yeah.
I would be a little bit more worried about the Tomlin. There's all these rumors that if they don't make the playoffs, it might be time to part ways, or if Baltimore loses tonight. Sure. And this whole thing with Lamar Jackson, and does the owner side with the quarterback, or do they look to trade him? I would be more concerned about those guys than I would about McCarthy, only because it didn't end the way McCarthy thought it would end in Dallas.
Right. I mean, there were questions. See, that's where I think that when you look at with front office and stuff with Mike, that's why I think one of the decisions was made because of the work ethic and Mike is a great coach. I'm not saying you're not right on this situation. I just wonder, if Mike is a really good talker. And so I wonder if him to go in front of the Mara family, the Tisch family, and kind of selling himself, I think he could absolutely do that. The thing that I would worry about if I was a Giants fan is, he's won games, but is he in this? Is he both feet in? That's where I would worry about.
Yeah, no, and that's a legitimate point. Remember, what was it, like Rocky 3, when the movie starts and he's got the mansion and all that other stuff?
Oh, no, absolutely, yeah.
And Burgess Meredith says, and Rocky can't figure out why it's not clicking. And he goes, you become civilized with your satin sheets. When these guys do it for such a long time and they've had success.
He has.
You do wonder about if the priorities are not just about ball. Is family, is their grandkids, is their trips to Italy, all those things, because they have so much money in their pocket. Do they have that burning desire to grind it out? That is a legitimate question and concern that you bring up.
Yeah, Bob, and I would also wonder, and I don't know how your organization, you live this every day, how involved are the head coach in the decision-making for the personnel group there? That's or for the roster. I worked with Parcells, and it was such a blessing to learn from a guy like that who was both feet in on personnel.
So that's interesting because the Giants traditionally, the general manager has been the guy that runs the draft and handles personnel.
Right.
But when Joe Shane and Brian Dable came in, one of the big selling points and one of the big messaging that was coming out of it was that it was going to be very collaborative.
Right.
And it was collaborative when you made it to the playoffs.
Right.
But then when you start losing and suddenly a lot of high draft picks are flopping, like, Evan Neal has done nothing here. Jalen Hyatt, they traded up for in the third round. Guy doesn't even have a touchdown catch, and he's a healthy scratch. Yeah. And the list goes on. Sometimes then it's not as collaborative. I think whoever the new head coach is in today's modern NFL, it had better be collaborative because you can't have a guy picking players that doesn't fit into what you want to do as a scheme or what you are looking for as far as player skills.
Yeah, what I would say, it's so funny, you had Jason Garrett up there. Jason Garrett is an absolute wonderful evaluator. I don't know so much about Mike because Mike doesn't have a great history of that with Green Bay. I was there too with that. So it's just things I think that you have to, when you talk to these coaches, you have to kind of get to the bottom of how much they really, really want to be involved in all that.
Yeah, it's a big decision, and obviously you want to hire somebody that's going to be able to help this quarterback grow because there is a lot to love about Jackson Dart, and that would be a priority.
Yep.
Voice of the Giants, Bob Papa, with us here on The Fan. What are the big needs right now? I mean, as you head into the offseason, you guys are going to be picking high in the draft. Is it more offensive, defensive? I know when you look at the Cowboys, it's like, man, we need to revamp this defense in the most desperate way. What does it look like here for the Giants?
Well, the Giants certainly need, as I mentioned earlier, they need another legit wide receiver. I mean, they just play with a bunch of guys, and, I made the point a couple of years ago, like, every game the Giants play, the opposing team would never trade any of their two starting wide receivers for any Giant wide receiver. Now, Neighbors changed that. You guys saw that in Arlington in week 2, the kind of difference maker he could be.
Right.
They need help at cornerback. I mean, Deonte Banks, look, he's been reduced to a kickoff return guy. He had a 95-yard kickoff return, but he's not been good defensively, and I'm sure at some point Kevontae Turpin is going to run by him today for a big play. I mean, it's the kind of the same thing over and over again. They need help at safety. They need help at inside backer. And then they got to make a decision because Jermaine Illuminor, the right tackle who's been so good since they brought him here, he's going to command a pretty penny. And the problem the Giants have is they're coming off potentially another 3-win season, and they don't have a ton of cap room in the offseason. So you're a bad team, and you got a bad cap situation as far as your ability to spend. So keep your eye today on Marcus Bowe, 71, who's been really good since they drafted him.
Yeah, sure has.
And he was good in the training camp. He was good in the preseason, and he's done a pretty good job when he stepped in, but they could always use some help on the O-line. Probably have to deepen their running back room. I mean, there's a lot of needs, but I think priority number one is the cornerback secondary situation and getting a legitimate number 2 wide receiver in here.
Don't worry about your wide receivers today, Bob. They'll look like Hall of Famers playing against the Cowboys guys, the way they're covering
it's
here.
a good
with
stock-up day.
Lack of pass rush here, too. I'll say this, though. The Giants have chased offensive line, it seems like, forever. Why? I mean, I know the why, but why they had so many problems with this?
Because Will McClay's in Dallas and not in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, Will McClay is probably the most underrated, great identifier of talent in the league. Mm-hmm. It's really weird because it's spanned 3 different general managers.
It has.
It's spanned a million different head coaches, and it's not as if they haven't used a lot of high draft capital.
They're trying.
That Justin Pugh was a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Eric Flowers was a first-round pick. They've had numerous second-round picks. John Michael Schmitz at center. He hasn't developed into the player they thought he would be. Evan Neal has been an abject bust. It's so weird that they just have not been able to identify quality offensive linemen. Meanwhile, the Cowboys turn their offensive line over every couple of years, and it seems like whoever they put in turns into a Pro Bowl player.
Well, Bob, we can't thank you enough for the time, man. I mean, truly, when we do this all year, we get a chance to chat with you twice
this season. It's like talking to a general manager of a team.
We do. We love it, man. We can't thank you enough. It's always a treat.
Doesn't it feel like it was another lifetime ago that overtime game was played?
Oh no!
yeah. Dude. Russell Wilson. What a game from him a week before he gets benched. That's ridiculous.
Bob, can't wait to hear on golf coverage too coming up. I hope hope you have a great spring doing that.
Yeah, well, I told Tim, I said the one silver lining when the team's not going to make the playoffs is I got that flight booked to Kona in 2 weeks.
There you go.
PGA Tour champion starts at 4 Seasons while alive.
There you go.
The only thing missing is Tiger Woods because of his surgery.
There you go.
That's right. Well, have some fun, Bob. Enjoy the off season, and we look forward to catching up with you again next year.
All right, guys. Hopefully it'll be better.
No kidding. No kidding. There he goes. Voice of the Giants, one of our favorites, Bob Papa, right here on The Fan, live on the Fan Cam Twitch and YouTube at your Cowboys pregame show. Want to let you know the creators of Buffalo bring you NFL casino games. Kick off with America's team on and off the reels with Cowboys-themed casino games developed by Aristocrat, a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Do you have a gambling problem? Please contact 1-800-GAMBLER for 21 and over. We'll talk with Moose Johnston coming up here in just a few minutes, but right now it's time for today's player profile. The 3-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold in the Cowboys locker room with Cowboys running back Malik Davis.
Happy New Year, Malik Davis.
Happy New Year's.
It's the last game of the season, and I've been dying to talk to you all season long because, dude, you've got one crazy story about being on this Cowboys roster off and on for how many years now? So what, 2022?
Going on 5 years.
It's an amazing thing, man.
Next year, make 5 years.
And let's go back to, we got a game to get against the Giants. We won't get into that for a minute, but let's go back to this season when you came back, because it seemed like you came back just before the preseason or in the middle of the preseason.
Yeah, I came back the day before the preseason game. They called me that Thursday. I flew out that Friday, played that Saturday.
Well, you know what? I think you've become a fan favorite because you never quit, and then you play hard and play running back, and it's like you step in and get the job done. Has always been one of the reasons why you keep coming back?
Yeah, I'll definitely say that. That's always been my character since I was a kid. I always felt like I had a chip on my shoulder. Even throughout college, I dealt with injuries and had to, work myself back to where I was at. And, it's the same thing. So it's just something that I've been used to. And I don't mind putting in the extra work, because I know when you get rewarded, it feels better knowing you put in that work to get where you're going.
So let's put it in perspective. Let's name some of the names that's been in the running back room for these last 5 years you've been here. Zeke was here. Pollard was here. Let's go down the list.
Zeke, Pollard, Rico Dowdle. Who else we had with us?
this year is by committee.
Yes, Sanders.
Yeah.
Tay.
Mm-hmm.
Blue.
Right.
Yeah.
And you.
Yeah.
And so when they bring you back,
right?
Was it a phone call? I mean, how did they get a hold of you?
It was a phone call. I got on the phone with Will McClay. We had a conversation, and I told him, I like the opportunity to come back there and play for you guys. And we made it happen.
So you're very consistent. In fact, Dak Prescott has told me that you are one of his favorite players ever. What's this bond between you and Dak?
Oh, this is a real. Besides football, I probably go to his house more than anyone else on the team. I go to his house every week, so I'm over there all the time. I know his family. I know his kids. They're familiar with my face. Dak is a very down-to-earth, humble guy, and I'd like to try to carry myself like that as well. So we got a great bond, and since my rookie year, we've had that bond.
So you're gonna play today? I can't remember if you're gonna play or not because it's a game time decision. Your eye?
Yeah, it's a game time decision. I'll see. We're playing it day by day. Hopefully I could go. I want to go, but we just got to play it.
So how would this happen? Nobody poked you or not? What happened? Your helmet hit you? What? Somebody grabbed the helmet?
So I had the D lineman. He grabbed my face mask, so he had it pulled to the side. And while he has it pulled to the side, safety runs in and hit me. So my earpiece is on my eye, so all the pressure just went in. So in the moment, I didn't know what happened. I didn't know if I got poked or whatever because I felt his hands in my face. So when I ran to the sideline, I'm like, I think I got poked, but my nose is bleeding too. So they're like, your nose is bleeding. It was bleeding kind of bad. So I'm wiping off my nose. I'm like, my coach like, you all right? I'm like, I'm good. Put me back in. And I go back out there, but I couldn't. It wouldn't open back up.
All right, so it's the Giants game. It's the last game of the season.
Yeah.
Everybody's got various reasons to play for. Some people want to make sure they make the team again. Some people want to make sure that they can hit their bonuses. Some people just want to help with the culture that Shot is creating.
Right.
You personally, what does this game mean to you if you get a chance to play?
It means everything. I mean, anytime I get the opportunity to go out there and put on those cleats, it means everything to me, no matter if we're going to the playoffs or not. I know that's the thing going around. People ask, how do you still have that drive to play if you're not? I mean, come on, bro. We got families to feed.
Yeah.
It's a lot. You playing for, your resume next year. It's a lot of reasons that you should be still going hard. And I could go down the list.
Hey, Malik, I want to say congratulations on being here again for the 5th year.
Yes, sir.
And good luck this afternoon. Hope everything works out.
Thank you.
All right, there it is. Today's player profile with the 3-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold and Cowboys running back Malik Davis has been a fun story this year. Crazy roller coaster type career, but he's come in, made quite the impact. Unfortunately, will not be on the field today, as well as Javonte Williams. But we'll get a look at the rookies. Jaden Blue, Phil Maffa, 877-881-1053. Looking forward to seeing those fellas today as well. All right, we are just over 2 hours and 20 minutes to kick off. Let's go to MetLife Stadium, on to the field, and welcome in former Cowboy Daryl Moose Johnston. Joins us next right here on The Fan.
Football season is here, but it's still hot, which means pests like ants, roaches, and mosquitoes are out in force. Luckily, you can trust the pros at Arrow Exterminators to keep your home and business pest-free. Arrow Exterminators is trusted to keep a pest-free zone at the Cowboys' home. So rest assured that with Arrow's pest and
brand can get. Get it while you can at Gillette.com/NFL. Gillette's Best Shave is also available as heated.
Okay, we're just over 2 hours and 15 minutes to kick off Week 18, the season finale, Cowboys and Giants. And now we go live to MetLife Stadium and welcome in three-time Super Bowl champion, former Cowboys fullback. On the call for Fox today, it's Daryl Moose Johnston, ladies and gentlemen. Moose, thanks so much for giving us some time, man. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How you guys doing?
We're great. Hate to see the season end the way that it has for the Cowboys here. Can't believe we're already in Week 18. So much to get into. But, yeah, excited for today's game, of course. Plenty of things to watch for. And I'm curious how your conversations have gone this week, getting a chance to catch up with Shoddy. I'm curious how you feel about Shoddy leading this thing moving forward.
I've been very impressed with Coach Schottenheimer, through the course of the season. Just the way he's handled everything, talking to the players and people within the organization about the authenticity, the vulnerability, the honesty, the accountability, all the good words that you want to hear about him. And I think that everything was on display when we tragically lost Marshawn Nealon during the course of the season, and how he handled that. I mean, you can't prepare yourself for something like that. You hope that thing never happens. And the way that Coach Schottenheimer handled that, with his team, with the organization, I thought was one of the greatest examples of how well he has done this season, that has been kind of tumultuous from times to time, and never so much as it was with the tragic loss to Marshawn Nealon.
Moose, with your background with this team and the history you have with this team, and I know you follow it very, very closely, we all seem to be focusing on the defensive aspects of things. Offense looks like they've got things kind of in place, but I was just wondering, where would you start when you're looking at this defense on a rebuild? And I know you have a personnel background as well to kind of navigate this situation.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious right now. It needs to go on the back end, linebacker level, secondary, obviously with the addition of Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams to go with Oso Odigizua. You've got a pretty stout interior defensive line. I think you've got really good edge presence that is early on. I think, being able to get Jadeveon Clowney here for an entire offseason and, kind of get him acclimated with the chemistry of the team. I think he'll perform even better than he has here down the stretch. Donovan Ezaraku is an up-and-coming guy, so they've got some presence at the edge, but obviously the strength is inside. It's the back end, and I think there's a lot of reasons why it's been a struggle this year. And, we had Arizona last week, and Jonathan Gannon's going through a tough spell out there in Arizona with all the injuries, and I think that's what's happened here in Dallas. I mean, you come into camp, you don't have your corners, your starting corners are not there. I think one of the big things, you never replaced Jordan Lewis. Right. You didn't have an answer for that. And I think when you look at what Matt Eberflus does in that system, it's very similar to Lou Anarumo, who came out of Cincinnati and is now in Indianapolis. That nickelback position, that unique guy, that Mike Hilton, that Kyler Gordon, that Kenny Moore type guy. They didn't have that here in Dallas, and that's a key fixture in that style of defense. So I think that's another issue. Your safeties were in and out of the lineup, during the course of the year. So that group on the back end never really had the opportunity to play together consistently, to grow together consistently, to be able to develop nonverbal communication on the field with just the look of an eye or body posture, where you can do, some elevated disguise things. So I really think the back end is an area you got to go to and bring in some new people. I think obviously one of the positions when you talk about that nickel spot, when you look at Nick Emanwari from Seattle, obviously Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore, is there anybody like that's in this draft? But I think that would probably be, one of the areas that I would be looking for, just knowing how important that is to Matt Eberflus's defense.
Yeah, Moose, so, this is the first time we've had a chance to talk to you again for 18 weeks, and I just kind of wonder, when you first heard about the Micah Parsons trade, did you immediately feel like that Dallas's defense might be in some trouble?
Well, they're not going to be as good as they were, when they had Micah. I was surprised about the timing. I just thought it was going to be hard. When you get that many people that are setting the market at a position under your salary cap, it just makes things challenging moving forward. So I thought it was going to be something that was going to be done, maybe directly after the offseason, leading into, free agency and the draft, and you're going to accumulate a lot of draft capital, and you're going to take advantage of that in the 2025 draft and for the 2025 season. So I was probably more surprised about the timing of it than anything else. But obviously, when you lose somebody like Micah Parsons, there's no way that your defense, can be as productive. And I think we've seen that with the numbers, not just with the sacks and the pressures, but also, the takeaways. I mean, that's a big component of a defense being able to take away, generate takeaways. So, I think probably the biggest thing for me was the timing of the decision, and when all of that came down, more so than it actually happening itself.
Daryl Moose Johnston with us here on The Fan. How have you liked the Cowboys' offense this year and the way Clayton Adams and Shoddy and the approach there, Javonte Williams, the rushing attack? What have you seen?
Yeah, I've really liked it, and that was one of the things we talked to Coach Schottenheimer about, and with Clayton Adams, and we because we had Arizona last week, we kind of touched base with them a little bit, and Clayton is missed out in Arizona for sure. I think a lot of that rush game is also a part of Kyler Murray, but I think one of the great things that Bryan Schottenheimer shared with us was, sometimes the run game is a little bit stagnant when you talk about your formation and your motions and your shifts. Not everybody does the San Francisco movement in the run game.
Right.
That's not the easiest thing to do, and some people will shy away from that a little bit. And, Clayton is really open to pushing that envelope a little bit there, and it's something that he and Bryan wanted to do, to kind of help out that running game. And then when you see the type of season that Javonte Williams had, not only getting healthy, but being in a system that offered, some challenges with movement to the defense where you couldn't really kind of hone in pre-snap and really kind of get it down to a couple of things that might be heading your way. The way they use the tight ends, I think, is unique. It'll be interesting to see because I've been impressed by the teams that really use the wide receivers. But, how many Puka Nakuas do you have? How many Amon-Ra St. Browns do you have? But I love the way that they do the insert with the wide receivers in the run game now, too. So I think it's so much different than when I played because we were very stagnant. We had a little bit of motion, but that was usually tight end, fullback motions, nothing real exotic. So defenses could really kind of pre-snap, based on your personnel and your alignment and the formation, kind of get it down to a couple of runs that could be coming their way, where in today's game, everything is moving so quickly, it really challenges, the eyes and the rules of the defensive players.
Well, coming from the Green Bay Packers, Moose, it didn't matter what you guys did. You could just stand in the same spot for the whole game, and we weren't going to be able to stop you with what we had. I'm going to ask you, though, and I know you have some philosophies about team building and stuff like that. I want to get your thought about with this potential signing of George Pickens, and can you have these two receivers that are making well north of $30 million as part of your roster?
Well, I think you can go to Cincinnati and kind of run that as your test project, and to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins there, and how that limits you with what else you're going to do on your team with that roster, and how much stress that puts on making sure that you nail the draft. That's going to put a lot of pressure on Will McClay and his group and everybody in the organization to make sure that they have those younger guys on those favorable contracts for a number of years that are big contributors to the team. I think it's not wise to invest that much.
Sure.
You've got CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, and George Pickens occupying how much of your salary cap? And, we're trying to get the defensive side of the ball better.
Yeah.
So does it really make a whole lot of sense? I think Rob Gronkowski had one of the more interesting perspectives on this a couple of weeks ago. George Pickens is here on a one-year contract.
Right.
And it's kind of a prove it to you. And, you've still had some bumpy days. And if that's somebody on their best behavior, what happens when you're on a long-term deal? And
Right.
how challenging does
Sure.
that become within the rules of the organization? So, for me, I think he's a fantastic football player. I've always felt that. I mean, he makes catches that very few people in the NFL can make. He's fantastic with the ball in his hand. I can see the intrigue, but long-term, for what's in the best interest of the Dallas Cowboys, I don't see how it's feasible.
Yeah.
Even putting the the moniker on him,
Sure.
Tagging him as the offseason goes and just doing one more season. And then that all comes down to, do we really feel like we are 1 year away from becoming a very competitive team. Because if you're just going to do it for 1 year and then you're going to lose that,
right.
that doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. For me, it's more about a slow build to create something that's sustainable and keeps you at the top of the division for years to come.
We had a chance to talk to Stephen Jones on Friday, and he's talking about his defense, and he said they didn't have any identity. Where are you on these thoughts when people say we don't have identity?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I think the one thing that we do know about Coach Eberflus is he has his hits principle, so there is some foundational pieces to that defense. I think to have a defense that has an identity, you have to have a couple of players that are the generators of that identity.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the defenses that had that identity, and it usually comes with a moniker, right? Doomsday, Steel Curtain, Purple People Eaters, the Ravens in 2000, the Bears in '85. You've got great players with big personalities, and all of a sudden there's an identity that gets tagged to that group. And until you do that, I think you're running a system that has foundational pieces to it and cornerstones to it that you're going to hold all the guys accountable to. But I don't know if that really generates an identity yet. I think identities come to championship teams with game-changing defenses. And so, to get an identity, to get that moniker, you're going to have to earn that. So you can play with all those pieces in place, with good players, with all those foundational components and elements to what we hold you accountable to as a defender on this team. But I still don't think that guarantees that all of a sudden you're going to have an identity.
Moose, we can't thank you enough for the time, man. It's a treat to catch up with you. Enjoy the game today. We'll be watching.
All right, guys, take care.
Yes, sir. There he goes, Daryl Moose Johnston with us here on The Fan. And whether you're a backyard griller, Cowboys tailgater, or a Pitmaster Pro, Meat Church has everything you need. Visit meatchurch.com, your ultimate destination for the finest rubs, seasonings, and barbecue supplies. Matt Pittman and Meat Church, the official pitmaster of the Dallas Cowboys, just over 2 hours to kick off for the season finale versus the Giants. Let's go back out to MetLife Stadium and welcome in the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, next, right here on The Fan.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here.
the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Tyson Foods. Get your Tyson Cowboys Star Nuggets available now. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Let's talk with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, live from MetLife Stadium, as we are now just under 2 hours to kick off here for the season finale, Cowboys and Giants. Brad, how you doing?
Outstanding. How are you boys?
We're great, man. We're great. How's the weather out there?
You know, where I am, it's lovely. Now, we do have the windows open, but it's 31 degrees, according to my little telephonic device, and but it's got a feel like of 33. So if Christy will stand in the sun, she may want to take off one of the jackets that she's wearing. We actually are very fortunate, Eric, because considering what it could be, we actually had this conversation, a bunch of us coming up in the elevator. We're in New Jersey in January.
Yeah.
But it could be real windy, which it's not. It could be rainy and sleety, which it's absolutely not. I mean, there's literally not a cloud in the sky. And so it'll be crisp, but it'll be a really good day for a game.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brad, there's a story about that, right? The Giants, they stand in the sun on their bench, and it goes back to Mrs. Mara back in the 20s, where Wellington got sick during a game, and Mom told the dad, like, listen, you put our team in the sun so they can so Wellington doesn't get sick anymore. So they're going to put us in the shade over there. It might be a little. Christy might need all her gear for this one. She might.
But that's why she brings it. She's the most prepared reporter.
She is way prepared. But yeah, Mrs. Mara, she told Pops, hey, put that team of yours in that sun over there so Wellington doesn't get sick anymore.
Women should be in charge officially because they are in charge of everything unofficially.
Sit in the sun on a cold day. It helps you a lot. It helps you a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, I'm going to put you in the sun for how much is your quarterback going to play today? And I know you're going to tell me the head coach is the only one that knows.
Yeah, because I texted you that. That's how you know I'm going to tell you.
Well, gosh, Brad, you got to
peel back the curtain.
Come on, Brad, a little show prep here, right? A little show prep.
The thing, I think the thing that's great, I know that like last week, which didn't mean any more than this week, you would have literally have had to pull Prescott out of that game at gunpoint. He wasn't coming out.
He wasn't coming out.
And I think that. And if you recall, during the week when they asked him before the game on Christmas, reporters started to ask him at his weekly availability, will you play? And he cut him off. He wouldn't even let him ask the question. I'm playing.
Yeah.
Because he just wants to play. He believes that this is why they're here. Now, it's a really tricky line that the head coach has to walk, because on one hand, you sign up to play, so play. And on the other hand, the last thing you want is someone getting a serious injury in this game or even last week, because now if you're looking at a 9 to 12 month rehab of an injury, it's most of next season.
Yeah.
So you got to split the difference. And then, to be a little bit more positive, there are benefits to seeing Joe Milton play. This game can be like what you would like a preseason game to be, but it's not, because you're not game planning. Well, here you can game plan.
Right.
And the other team is actually trying to win. They're not trying to avoid everything like you're trying to avoid everything. So there are benefits to seeing Joe Milton play under those circumstances, and Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa. Now, you don't have 75 players available, so you can't do much on. Well, first of all, they couldn't go any deeper at cornerback,
right?
And you don't have enough defensive linemen. You still have to deactivate people. Like, I'd love to see Perion Winfrey get some snaps today, but who am I not going to play? Who's going to sit down? None of the top 4 defensive tackles, because I really don't want to look bad against this team and walk out of here with a loss. So all of that to say, I think you've got to let Prescott play a little bit, and if they look fairly good and are efficient, which is going to have something to do with how they protect him, then let's get him out. If he played even the full first half, I think I'd be mildly surprised. More than that, I'd be quite surprised. But it's open to whatever the head coach. You know, Tom Landry used to say when they asked him about quarterbacks, how do you know what to do at quarterback?
Shuffle them in and out.
Landry would say, I go by feel.
Feel.
And he was Tom Landry, and so everybody said, okay.
Yeah.
And so that's actually what every coach always does. They go by feel. What do you see? So Schottenheimer will do what is best for his player and then best for the team kind of simultaneously.
Brad, you mentioned about with Phil Maffa and Blue and those guys. I kind of feel like there's going to be a plan of maybe Hunter Lipke being that guy that maybe on the third down stuff comes in, but the other two guys getting the opportunity to carry the football. Is that a good plan, or do you have another idea of how you would play this with the running backs?
You don't have many more options than that.
Right.
I don't know, but personally I think Lipke would take the first snap.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think you want Jaden Blue taking the first snap. And Maffa, don't forget, Blue's been practicing.
Right.
Maffa has been on IR. When you're on IR, you can't practice.
Right.
You can be at practice, but you can't practice. So Maffa has just been practicing. So he's not going to start. And I think Lipke will start. I think you're absolutely right on most third downs. But then I think it might depend on the distance, because there might be some situations where you want to see what Blue can do. Another thing we got to find out is who's the personal protector. And the last thing I heard was on the punt team, because it was Malik Davis.
Malik Davis is that guy usually, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, he took over for the safety who got hurt. And
Thomas.
So, Wanye Thomas. Now, I've heard Jaden Blue might be the personal protector. So we've got to find out exactly what they're looking for the personal protector to do. But I think that Maffa, you'd like to think, because of his physical differences from Blue, is able to do a few more things, especially in the protection game. But the honest answer, Brian, is we haven't seen Blue do any of that. We don't know how much better he might be at some of that than he was at the beginning of the year. That's one of the benefits of getting him some activity today. I'll tell you one thing that does surprise me that is tied to that, and I just ran out of time to ask Schottenheimer when we taped his pregame show. I would have thought that they would have gotten Will Greer to the active roster so that he could be the emergency third quarterback, because you can't do that from the practice squad.
Right.
So if Joe Milton comes in the game and gets hurt, Prescott's got to come back in the game.
Right.
So they've got to kind of keep that in the back of their mind as well. But I just think that you're going to see all of those running backs, and Lipke will have a heavy dose.
Brad Sham with us here on The Fan. Brad, how much are you going to be missing, or how much do you already miss Trayvon Diggs?
Yeah, no, none. None. What has he given us to miss?
I'm with you. What do you think about the ending of it all?
Here's the thing. Well, it's unfortunate, but Diggs, as much as he could possibly do, Diggs orchestrated that. Mm-hmm. Diggs started, this is the truth, and a lot of his sycophants don't want to say it. Diggs began to orchestrate, not intentionally, but Diggs began to orchestrate his departure from the team 2 years ago when he had the first big knee injury, and he did not rehab here with the team staff, and they didn't like what he did in terms of his rehab. They didn't think he worked hard enough. They didn't do the things Now, were they right or wrong? I don't know, but they're the boss. Yeah. They're the ones writing the checks. And frankly, I think that they think that Al Harris babied him a little bit and did the same thing with Kalen Carson last year. And that's one of the reasons that they let Al Harris leave, not the only reason, or that maybe Al wanted to leave.
Sure.
But your question's about Diggs. Diggs started to separate himself 2 years ago when he just wouldn't do what they wanted to do they've got a lot invested in him at that point.
Yeah.
Just, they're entitled to say, this is the plan we want you to follow. And he didn't want to follow that. And so that's when the fissure begins to develop. And then it happened again last year, same thing. And then with all of the Parsons stuff, they're joined at the hip, and they're talking. And so whenever Micah got butt hurt, Diggs got butt hurt. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
No one else will want to. His water carriers won't want to say it, but that's a fact. And so by the time when they traded Micah, and then his knee wasn't right, and then he's got the concussion, and he hasn't been physically healthy to be able to be the Trayvon Diggs, Eric, that we would have missed. And he hasn't been that guy in 2 years. So now this guy who, let me just throw this stat at you because he's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys cornerbacks, everyone who's lined up and played cornerback for them this year, have a total of 18 passes defensed.
Yeah.
That's knocking a ball down or intercepting it.
No.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
18. That's like one a game.
Yeah.
The Giants have 2 cornerbacks who have 23 combined.
Right.
They've got 18. Everybody, and Diggs had 0.
Yeah.
So don't act like Diggs play. I'm not saying you're doing this, Eric. I'm talking to the world at large. Don't act like Diggs played well. Don't act like this year. Don't act like this was the Trayvon Diggs of 3 years ago. It wasn't. And he started to throw dirt on the relationship with the team with the way he rehabbed from his first knee injury and separated himself from the team. When Schottenheimer talks about culture, part of that is what Micah liked to do in the offseason by going to work with sumo wrestlers instead of being with the team, which is, that's fine. And I don't believe there's a team in the league that if a player said, look, I'm going to do what you are asking me to do, and then I'm going to go to Florida and work with this guy that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody would stop him from doing that. And it's in the language. Brian, you know this.
Yeah.
They can get a second opinion on any medical ruling.
Absolutely, they can.
So no team is going to stop you from doing that, but do what they want you to do first. So Eric, how much am I going to miss Trayvon Diggs? We haven't seen the Trayvon Diggs that we developed a crush on in 2 years. Okay. So the Trayvon Diggs who was here, I don't miss that.
Brad, I have a.
Now, by the way, I like the guy personally. Let me say that.
No, I know.
I see him in the hallway, and I get a smile and a handshake, and I like the guy personally. I'm just talking about the football player.
Gotcha, Brad. I have a theory that we misevaluated the pass rush this summer when we were watching practice, and I kind of blame it on maybe the fact that we misevaluated the offensive tackles.
I heard you say that during the week. That is certainly possible. I think we may have just misevaluated the pass rushers.
Yeah.
I think that. Let me hit this cough button for a minute here.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
I thought 2 cups of coffee was going to be enough to straighten that out, but apparently not. I really thought that when you trade Micah, you've lost a great player. You can't replace him. But what Jerry said at the time was not wrong. A lot of people don't want to hear anything about what he's saying because he said it, but he wasn't wrong. You can kind of create pressure, but it started, and so that means Eberflus got to do different things than he wanted to do. So part of it is on him. But in particular, Dante Fowler and Sam Williams let them down terribly at the beginning of the year. They knew Ezeraku was going to develop. He wasn't going to be at the beginning of the year what he was at the end of the year. And he, I think, has proven to be a really solid player who's got a chance to be a really good player, and he's not going to be a 15-sack guy. That's not who he is. But that doesn't mean he's not a really good player. See DeMarcus Lawrence. I'm not saying he's DeMarcus Lawrence, but it's the same kind of thing.
Right.
But Sam Williams, this was his chance. This was his time. He was supposed to be able to step into the Dorrance Armstrong role, or even the Chauncey Golston role, who's here now. Golston had 5.5 sacks last year. Mm-hmm. And Sam Williams and Dante Fowler let them down. they and when I say they, I believe, Bryan, that it's true of the front office, and I would put myself as being culpable of trying to address the question you're posing. I think I misevaluated what they were going to do. Not Fowler so much. How many times did I tell you guys, look at Fowler's history?
Right.
He's never had 2 good statistical
Yep.
years in his career. So he wasn't getting 10 sacks this year. If you got 4 or 5 out of him, you'd have been great, and you're nowhere near that. But those 2 guys, they were counting on them. Now, did we over-evaluate the tackles? That's certainly possible. But I think that when the lights came on, those guys gave them nothing. And that was part of the real problem with the pass rush. And really, the defensive end play didn't get to be what I'd call even adequate until a month after Clowney signed, and Clowney didn't sign till week 2.
Yeah.
So that's one thing they have to do, is step back and say, what did we evaluate? And your question, Bryan, is a great one. How much did we misevaluate what we had at defensive end because of the offensive tackle play? And how much did we misevaluate it because we overestimated what those guys were going to do? And we better check on how we evaluate people before we go into this next offseason.
Well, Brad, you're the man. Appreciate you as always, all season long. Always enjoy our conversations, man. Enjoy the game
too,
today.
Eric.
We'll be listening.
Okay, have fun, boys.
Yes, sir. There he goes. Voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, with us here on your Cowboys pregame show. Tolos Reliant is proud to power the homes of the Dallas Cowboys and the homes of Cowboys fans across Texas. Reliant, the official energy provider of the Dallas Cowboys. 1 hour, 42 minutes to kick off season finale versus the Giants. Let's go back to MetLife Stadium inside the Star with our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt. That's next right here on The Fan.
Cowboys fans, here's the game plan. Touchdown Tuesday at Take 5.
store near you. Win big by making the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys the official milk of your family table.
All right, here we go. Just over 90 minutes to kick off for the Cowboys season finale. Cowboys and Giants. Let's go to MetLife Stadium and welcome in our Cowboys insider, Bobby Bell, as we go inside the Star here on your Cowboys pregame show. Bob, happy Sunday, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'd like to do something unprecedented, though. I would like to cede whatever time I have here to let Brad Sham go keep going off about Trayvon Diggs. Brad, I loved it. It was great. Yeah,
awesome.
Brad's putting a hand up. It was good stuff from Brad there. But enjoying the pregame show this morning.
That's what Eric looked at me and goes, man, Brad has got some thoughts today. I love it.
That was great.
It was good stuff.
Double butt hurts. He dropped the double butt hurt right here in the season finale. Absolutely in his bag, and we appreciate it for sure. What do you think about the whole breakup and the divorce there with Diggs?
Yeah, I mean, it was inevitable.
Right.
They were going to have a split. I guess, yeah, the thing for everybody was just, why now? Is that's what everybody was trying to figure out, is why do it now? And I think that a lot of it was just, it wasn't necessarily him getting let go because of the whole flying back Christmas thing, but it is just like, okay, there you go. That's strike 6 or whatever it is now. And so I think that part of it was just ready to be finished with it, and ready to have the distraction out of here and not have that linger any longer in your building. And part of it was also about, potentially just, I think it's helpful to just know early on what kind of, your books are officially in order, especially if you're going to potentially slap a franchise tag on George Pickens, and that's going to be held on your cap for who knows how long, a $28 million charge or whatever that would be. So I think it also just helps to know financially, all right, let's have the books as clean as they can look before we get into that.
Bobby, man, today's the day where you just try and keep everybody upright and all that, but I think the bigger question mark is the situation with Matt Eberflus, and you guys have done a great job all year long of interviewing Jerry Jones and kind of getting his thoughts. Where do you think that he's leaning, if you just had to put a gut feeling on it when it comes to Matt Eberflus?
I think that he is, I don't know how much of a lean it is. I think he's likely made up his mind, and that I don't think he's going to be back.
Can you pinpoint when that was? Was that Detroit?
Yeah,
was it Minnesota? Where was that?
Minnesota.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree.
I think Detroit rattled him. He said that publicly, that he thought they had turned a corner, and Detroit kind of rattled him. And then the next week for Minnesota to do it after J.J. McCarthy had struggled like he had, and Jerry came on 105 through the Fan and said that, it seems like a lot of quarterbacks have their season best performance against us. And then he said, and I think that's telling. And I think that comment is telling. And Steven talking about Friday, they need an identity, which I know is Brian's favorite word. Brian loves the identity discussion.
Love the identity word.
But it is sort of interesting to think about calling cards that defensive coordinators have, and defensive coordinators that they've brought in here. I mean, if you look over the last several years, Mike Zimmer was a sim pressures guy. Dan Quinn came here as a press cover 3 type of philosophy. Rod Marinelli was a Tampa 2 guy through and through. Chris Richard, similarly, coming from Seattle with the kick step technique that they use in press coverage. And there are all these certain things that are just firm beliefs. And the last one they had that was a little undefined, I guess, was probably Mike Nolan. And that ended disastrously. And Matt Eberflus is a little bit of a hodgepodge. When you look at his history, he came here as a 3-4 outside linebackers coach. He was a 3-4 linebackers guy. Came here, worked under Marinelli, started to believe in a lot of different
Ryan. He was Rob Ryan, wild ass. We might not have 11 guys on the field, coach.
Right. So Rob Ryan, he gets that, and then it's Tampa 2 Rod that he works under, and then he starts to, and so there's this sort of just unholy mishmash of concepts that doesn't look like anything super clear identity wise that you can say, hey, that's their thing. And so, I mean, other than just everybody knows he doesn't like playing man very much and he doesn't like blitzing, but it's not like a core philosophy kind of built around that. So I think whatever they do, I think in all likelihood Matt Eberflus is out probably a few days after the season. I wouldn't think it's coming tomorrow. And then I think that whatever defensive coordinator they hire will probably be a secondary-minded defensive coordinator and somebody who believes in press coverage a little bit more, and press man specifically, because when Clayton Adams got hired, a big part of that was also he had a plan for Terrence Steele, that they wanted to hear about coaches on the offensive line or offensive coordinators or whatever else who would present an idea of how to recapture Terrence Steele. That was important to them. Whether they succeeded in it or not, that's what was part of the pitch that they enjoyed. They wanted to know that you had a plan for how to fix somebody they already had under contract that they needed to play better. Similarly, I think a big part of their discussion is going to be you need to have a plan for Savone Revel. And I want to know that you guys are going to maximize his abilities. And so I think Savone Revel's a good press man corner, and so I think it's going to have to match similarly in that vein.
Bobby, how do you think it's going to be a pretty exhaustive search if it happens, or is it going to be, hey, come in, have a steak dinner at the Cowboy Club, shake hands, spend the night, and then we hire you the next day?
That sleepover's important.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. It's extensive has not really been their calling card.
Not at all.
Coaching searches.
Yeah.
Since probably the last one was after Parcells. They interviewed like 8 people.
I remember the Ron Rivera's, and that's when we had Wade Phillips come in and say, surprise, it's me, that kind of thing.
Ron Rivera, Wade Phillips, Norv Turner interviewed.
Marvin Lewis. I mean, it was
Greg Minuski may have interviewed. I can't remember. And so, I mean, they definitely went through the gauntlet there. I'm going to be interested to see how wide a net they cast may also just be related to who's available, and what they're allowed to do relative to whether it be people in the playoffs or people in or out of contract, or maybe somebody's got an assistant head coach tag, and the NFL has not made it totally clear if you've got that assistant head coach tag, if it's considered a lateral move to hire somebody as a coordinator, like if you would need the permission from the team, even if they don't hold a coordinator title, because they hold something like assistant head coach. So I think they're going to be going through a lot of these different processes. Jim Leonard from Brad Sham here, which, again, there's a guy who's an assistant head coach, not a coordinator. But he's a secondary guy, and he's got assistant head coach in his title. So do you have to get permission for that? That's something they'd have to figure out with the league. But I think Leonard makes sense. I think if you were to look, it's always good to look back and see. I would say look for people with Gus Bradley ties. Look for guys who have coached with Gus Bradley. Look for guys who have coached with Vic Fangio. And those are the types of coaches that I think are very, it's very possible that one of the guys from that tree ends up here.
Bobby, folks on the text are asking about Al Harris. And I've gone on record, and nobody has texted me and told me I'm wrong. I didn't get the impression in talking to folks that Al Harris and Shoddy got along too well. And it might have something to do with what Brad was also talking about, with some coddling and things like that, maybe everybody wasn't completely on board with him.
Yeah, so Al Harris, just like he was when he was a player, could be a little bit of a coarse personality.
Coarse, I love that word.
And I think that there were some people, I definitely know there were some people who were like, I don't know about this Al Harris guy at first, that by the time he ended here, they loved him. And then I know there were others who were not big fans of his. And yeah, I think that I think Shoddy, I don't know that they had like a bunch of tension or anything. I think that it probably, I think Shoddy just looked at somebody who was a complicated personality relative to what they had here, and maybe even had his own conflicts with him at times. But I think he just looked at it and went, all right, if I'm trying to build a culture here, I probably need to reset with some of these guys that have, completely soured relationships with some people in the building. And I think that was part of it.
That's very well put, Robert.
Nice job, Bob. Cowboys insider Bobby Belt with us here on The Fan. As it pertains to today, what are you excited to see? Blue, Maffa, how much Dak are we going to see today? What do you know?
Yeah, I think that's the big question everybody seems to have is how much, like Dak Prescott will actually be out there. How much do they potentially turn it over? We did just get inactives that came out, by the way. DeMarvion Overshone, Savone Revel, Elijah Clark, Jay Toia, and Perion Winfrey. I think we are going to see a decent amount of Joe Milton today.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I'll say this. I know, like, having been on all these road trips this year, I don't think I've ever seen Joe Milton on the plane. Like, I know he's always been there, but I've just never seen him because we're in a different section. And I saw him twice yesterday walking to the front of the plane, and that just made me think, okay, he's going up there checking in on things.
Yeah, he's asking questions.
He's got questions, and so he could be just going to the bathroom. I don't know. But I do think that we're going to see some Joe Milton today, and just go back to what Shoddy had talked about during the summer with Joe, that he specifically said he came from a Tennessee scheme that kind of puts guys behind when they get to the NFL because it's not a lot of NFL concepts, and we got to do work with him. And he said the biggest thing Joe needs is reps. He said that over and over again during the summer. Joe needs reps. Joe needs reps. So I think he's going to give Dak the start today. I don't know, maybe it goes 2-3 series or something like that. But I do think that Joe Milton is going to play more snaps today than Dak.
What we need is Joe Milton that showed up against the Buffalo Bills last year. That's what we need. That guy kind of running around throwing the ball, man, like getting you excited about. What I do worry about is maybe Joe Milton throwing some interceptions today. Is really what I worry about.
Look, I mean, you get a better pick then. Bryan, maybe Caleb Downs is in your range at that point.
And by the way,
I will say that.
By the way, you killed my view on Brazel, the Tennessee receiver, with your comments about that their offense isn't very good.
They were Shoddy's comments, but look, that is a common.
Brazel's a good player, Shoddy. Don't worry about
it. Listen. In NFL personnel circles, it is a common thought that you're not sure about Tennessee guys.
You never are.
It's like the old Art Briles discussion.
They got Hyatt. They got Hyatt on the other side of the field of you, man. Same thing.
It's not just Hyatt. You can go back and look at the backs that have come out of there, and the receivers. Like, skill players have sometimes gotten to the next level, and it hasn't clicked the same way. That was the knock on Baylor guys for a while. And so just similarly there. But
Taking a shot at Baylor guys.
I do think that, I mean,
You're not wrong. Go ahead.
I think they've earned some of theirs for a lot of reasons. But anyway, I think that if you look at what Joe Milton can do today, I think it'd be best for them if he did play well, because you do want to create that question in another team's mind if he's not your quarterback of the future. You want to create some value there that Trey Lance could never create.
Are you knee deep in draft stuff right now?
Yep, I was. I mean, we're just really starting to run through players. I was sitting on the plane yesterday watching a bunch of David Bailey at Texas Tech.
That's a good film to watch, isn't it? Yeah.
Man, he's good. Yeah. He's good. Like every single time I think I see him just bull rush, like when he strikes a tackle, they stumble every single time. Like there's a lot to really like about him. I'm really impressed with him, but really getting going on edge rushers, looking at some safeties, basically just trying to look with an eye to what kind of starters do the Cowboys need.
I love it. Go ahead,
Bobby.
Quickly, Bob.
Quickly, Bob. You said at defensive end. Is that what you're thinking? Number one that you need the edge rushers.
I think they do. I mean, I think honestly, I was looking at this the other day. I think you probably need a safety, corner, 2 linebackers, 2 edge rushers. So yeah, you need probably 6 starting caliber players on defense this year to add to your 2 edge rushers, because you got to have a rotation there, so you got to have more than 2. But I think that's the thing. You got 6 guys. So whatever fits those 6 is
combination of 6. I got you, man.
All right, Bobby. Thank you, brother. You're the man. Enjoy the game and have a safe trip home.
I love you all.
There he goes, Bobby Belt, right here on The Fan. United Healthcare is the proud official healthcare partner of the Dallas Cowboys, bringing you coverage you can count on to Cowboys territory. Learn more at uhc.com. Just over an hour and 20 minutes to kick off season finale, Cowboys and Giants. Let's go back to MetLife Stadium, and we will welcome in the best in the business, Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales, giving us the scoop next right here on The Fan.
Dallas Cowboys fans know a thing or two about legacy.
daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
About an hour and 15 minutes to kick off season finale, Cowboys-Giants. Let's go to MetLife Stadium and welcome in the best in the business, Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales, giving us the scoop. Christy, happy game day. How you doing?
Happy game day and happy new year, fellas, and beautiful day. I know you've been getting the weather reports throughout the day, but they're saying it'll be about 35 degrees at kickoff, and that's actually a higher number than the tickets you can get in the upper deck. I saw them as low as $19 to get in today. Yeah,
got that preseason vibe to it a little bit, doesn't it?
Actually, it does, and I think that it's been I was talking with the guys on the sideline about this, some of the coaches and player personnel. I said it feels like, preseason games back in the 90s and early aughts where you see the starters, for a certain amount of time and how many series kind of thing. And everyone's been asking and how long Dak is going to play, and Tyler Smith will probably stay out there at left tackle as long as Dak is out there. And will it be a quarter? Will it be 2 or 3 series? I honestly think that it's based on 2 things. How long the initial drives are, but also what kind of pressure is being put on Dak. And if he's too much in harm's way, it might be a shorter day than expected.
Christy, what the situation? We got information about Clark being off now the roster for this game, maybe inactive because some not injury related stuff.
No, his wife's having a baby.
So
they're literally they're on the bus on the way to the game, right? He's on the trip, but he's from New Jersey.
Oh wow!
And so he didn't have to fly back. They called a car to come pick him up at the stadium.
Yeah.
So to get him, because it maybe, like I was told, like an hour and a half away. So, but there's fallout with that with Elijah Clark. And it's like, backup safety. What's the big deal?
Special teams.
Yeah, that, but also Ballantyne, who's the cornerback, who's Corey Ballantyne, who's going to be backing up Reddy Stewart in the slot.
Yeah.
He would also be your backup safety since Clark is out. And then in special teams, the ramifications for that is, how the last several weeks active has either been Mingo or Jalen Tolbert. And they're both active today. Mingo was going to be active all along and was getting, the first team reps in practice this week for special teams. But with Elijah Clark not being able to play today or headed to be with his wife who's in labor, they went ahead and activated Tolbert so that he can help out on teams too. And then obviously, I don't know if they're pulling when Dak comes out of the game, if they're going to pull CD and George Pickens at the same time. But, you've got an extra receiver there with Tolbert as well if they decide to go ahead and pull out Pickens and CD earlier than they might have normally done so.
How about that? All right, Christy Scales with us here on The Fan. Anything else special about today's game that might be different than usual?
Yeah. So the commemorative footballs that they're using today, they have a special logo. And guys, I just want to be the first to wish you happy semi-quincentennial. I know that you've really been looking forward to this in your lives.
Yeah.
Now, Bryan and I are old enough to remember the bicentennial, right, in 1975.
Absolutely.
So, yes, the semi-quincentennial, that's the fancy word for the 250th birthday for America.
Yep.
So we're just going to say big 250, okay, because it's too hard to say the other. But since this is the first game of the new year 2026, and 2026 obviously 250 years after the founding of our country, 1776 with the Declaration of Independence, all of the teams are using the footballs this weekend that have a 250 logo next to the shield, right, the NFL logo, the shield, and then to the right of it, it's a red, white, and blue, and it kind of looks like a ribbon, and the ribbon flows into a 250. And then those same footballs will be used for playoff games, and they haven't made an announcement for 2026 preseason and regular season, but I imagine that they would do the same thing. But here's the thing about the footballs: when the Wilson Football Factory sends them out, the teams, the equipment staff
Bucky beats
for
him
the
up.
home team.
Yeah.
So they actually got the football several weeks ago so that they can go ahead and use the brushes and do all the things to get them game ready. So that was smart because you don't want it to be the slick football that you slip through your fingers like Tony Romo, right, with the field goal with the game in Seattle. So but if those of you who are watching on TV along with listening to us on Cowboys Radio and the Fan, you'll probably see some close-up shots of the logos on the footballs.
Do they still have the Duke on the side of the ball? That's the most important
Of course,
thing.
yes. That's the most important thing.
That's Wellington Mara. That's a Giants guy, right?
Yes. And I heard you telling the story to Brad earlier about the field. And right now, if you're on the offensive side of the bench area, so that would be like the far side, the left side, from the press box, that's in sunshine right now. But if over on the defensive side and where I have all my notes spread out on the training table, which under the blue pop-up tent, well, the tent is down right now, but we're in the shade, so I'm ready to get done with this so I can get back over into the sun.
So what we're saying is Christy Scales will be on the offensive side of the bench this game, right?
I may, exactly. Wherever the sunshine is, I may do it from the Giants corner over there, but that's fine too. No, actually, it really is a glorious day. Just a few clouds in the sky, 35 degrees. And then did you hear about Denver, that it's like over 60 degrees for their home game in Denver, and that they will not have had a home game this season, don't know about playoffs, but below 60 degrees in Denver for the whole season. So if global warming is not a true thing, then I submit to you the Denver Broncos home schedule.
Yeah, I've seen the ski resorts up there in Colorado. It looks kind of a little barren up there right now.
They might be doing mountain biking down like in the summer.
Yeah, exactly.
Christy Scales with us here on the Fan. Well, Christy, when you look back on the season as a whole, what stands out to you?
It's just the way the ball is moved up and down the field and receivers running through the secondary, and not just against the Cowboys defense, but all the big plays for the Cowboys offense, and some of those grabs that Pickens made. But, the thing about Dak having the chance to lead the league in passing, and the Cowboys' #1 passing offense with a number of yards per game, 274 yards a game, that's wonderful. But take that and flip it. So who's the best passing offense in the league? It's actually whoever is playing the Dallas Cowboys. So you look back and, the 109 passer rating, I mean, Justin Fields and J.J. McCarthy and Russell Wilson all top 100 with their passer rating against this defense. And, it's the highest quarterback rating for opposing QBs of any defense in the league this season. And giving up, it's not just the pass plays, but 58 big run plays, right? Over 1,000 yards and big runs. But I know you've been talking a lot already in the pregame about what's going to happen with this defense. But man, that's what just stands out. Is just guys running free in the defensive backfield. So both directions, but mainly more so against the Cowboys. I mean, just the number of big plays. Sometimes you watching from the sideline perspective, it felt more like a ping pong match, right, than a football game. So that's what's going to stand out to me about this season.
Christy, I'm not going to ask you what happens on a plane because people can get in trouble for plane observations, but I will ask you about today and just sideline demeanor, coaches, guys you've run into. Any different from that regard, or is it the same as like business as usual?
Business as usual. And to be honest, like Shoddy doesn't come out early, so he hasn't even come out yet. And but no, I've had my normal conversations with the normal guys that are out here early. There's actually the only players on the field right now that are the specialists, and they'll be coming out by position groups in a little bit. But everyone was out doing the position group players were doing their light workouts and stretching and stuff like that. But no, it it really is business as usual. But I mean, they're all aware that the younger guys are going to get more playing time. Will it be in the second half? Will it be as early as the second quarter? Just depends. It's interesting to me that among the inactives are Perrion Winfrey and Jay Toia, because I thought those guys might get a little more time. But we're going to see Solomon Thomas, Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams. Quinnen, by the way, is the game captain for today. So I think you're going to see the regular rotation there along the defensive line, and there aren't any changes with the green dots either at linebacker. It's Murray, Wilson, and James, as it's been most weeks, except for when DeMarvion's been active.
I love it, Christy. Thanks so much for all the information, and we'll catch up with you once again next hour.
Sounds good. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. There she goes, Cowboys sideline reporter Christy Scales. Cowboys draft at 13-21 right now, as it stands today.
Yeah. What's the situation with a loss? Can you figure that one out?
Yeah, I mean, you root for Miami and Atlanta to win today, and you lose.
By the way, that Atlanta-New Orleans game is huge.
Yeah, it's huge. A lot of implications there. We'll get into that. Just over 60 minutes to your Cowboys season finale, and we're loaded. As always, we'll hear from Cowboys head coach Brian Schottenheimer. We'll go into the owner's box with Jerry Jones, and, of course, more Super Bowl winning analysis from Brian Broaddus. That's coming up next right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
Cowboys fans, here's the game plan. Touchdown Tuesday at Take 5 Oil Change. Just wear your Cowboys gear and save 25% on your oil change. No huddle, no overtime. Just drive in, stay in your car, and roll out. You'll be tailgate ready in 10 minutes flat. Keeping up with your car shouldn't be a tough call. Take 5 makes it as easy as calling the coin toss. Take 5 is the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit take5.com to find a location near you. Offer valid through December 31st, 2025. Terms and conditions apply. Valid only at participating locations.
Heck of a win, fellas.
Coach, the Cowboys beat us by 30 points.
No, I'm talking about my dog. He started eating fresh food from the farmer's dog and has lost 7 pounds.
Your senior dog with joint issues?
That's right, Steven. The pre-portioned meals of real meat and veggies help keep him lean, active, and feeling like a puppy again.
That's incredible. But what about the game?
The Cowboys smoked us. Hit the field, run some sprints.
Get 50% off your first box of the official pet food of the Dallas Cowboys. Only at thefarmersdog.com/Cowboys.
Superstitions are real, folks. I should know because I've seen it all. Lucky socks, sacred seats, push-ups before kickoff, but only one works every time. If you buy more deliciously soft Nature's Own buns baked with no artificial preservatives for the tailgate, your team will win.
1 for 1. Caught the ball. Touchdown. Touchdown, Cowboys.
With Brad Sham, Abe Loffenberg, Christy Scales, Eric Chiafalo, and Bryan Broaddus. Brought to you by
AT&T. Connecting changes everything. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by blockchain.com. Invest like your icons with blockchain.com.
Also brought to you by
Bell Nunnally, behind every great company. Jack Link's Beef Jerky, feed your wild side. Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Tyson Foods, get your Tyson Cowboys Star Nuggets available now. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiafalo and Bryan Broaddus.
Under 60 minutes to the season finale here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Great to have you in the official pregame show of America's Teen, Week 18 edition. And it's the Cowboys taking on the Giants. MetLife Stadium. I'm Eric Chiafalo alongside the Super Bowl champion Bryan Broaddus. Let's go ahead and preview this bad boy, brought to you by SeatGeek. Also brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Broaddus, this is a please God, don't give us any serious injuries game.
Yeah, I think really on both sides for both teams. You just do not want to go into the offseason of having to deal with guys with major injuries that might linger into the following season. And this is the tightrope that you walk all week long. I've been trying to use the word aesthetics with you when we were broadcasting together on 105.3 The Fan on our show. And to these coaches, the front office, the players, 8-8-1 looks a lot different to them than 7-9-1. And so there's going to be an effort to try and get that. Christy Scales talked about what's going on the defense. It doesn't seem like to me there's going to be a huge rotation with, I'd say a huge rotation, that there's going to be guys like Winfrey and Toia and those guys playing. They're all inactive.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that they're going to go with Quinnen Williams. They're going to go with Clark. They're going to go with, they're going to try and find a way to, one final time, have a good defensive effort. It's been a while since that has happened. They've given up some massive plays, chunk plays. Teams have run the ball. You just want to go out on a really, really good note if you can, and it would be nice if somehow your offense would click a little bit like it clicked against the Commanders the first half, and then you could find a way to hold on and win the game with your defense.
Yeah, inactives to Marvion Overshone, Savone Revel, Elijah Clark, Jay Toia, and Perion Winfrey. So you'll see Jaden Blue, Phil Maffa, rookie running backs getting their first real opportunities here, especially for Maffa, who's been banged up this season. So looking forward to that. Probably get some Joe Milton. Not really sure exactly how long Dak Prescott is going to be playing in this game, but he is starting. Could be a couple series, could be a quarter, a half, but at some point you will see Joe Milton. And I think the best news of all, the final time you'll see Eberflus coordinating the defense.
Yeah, that seems to be the path that will go. And there is a little bit, we could go back to the 2020 season after after the first year of Mike McCarthy. Then they moved on from Mike Nolan. It was a game that was played on January 3rd. Then 3 days later, they were moving on from Nolan, and then a week later, then you got the hiring of Dan Quinn. So there seems to be a little bit of a pattern that way, the way they might react. I do feel like this is going to be the final game for Matt Eberflus. And listen. Is it completely his fault? No. Are there some players that let him down? Absolutely. Was the front office hiring? Were they involved with the hiring of this? Absolutely. So there's a lot of things going on, with this particular coach. That's and I think the number one thing that when the next guy, we need to talk about guys that have adaptability. And I'm going to interview candidates potentially that you better come in and sell me how you know my roster defensively. Because Steven and Jerry like to say this, and we've talked about this on the Love of the Star. We did it yesterday, myself and Wolchuk, is Jerry says, he talks about the bones. We have the bones. And when he means the bones, he's talking about the players. He feels it. Now, right or wrong, they're going to need to add some players. There's no question about that.
Yes.
But they feel like there's certain players in place. And maybe the bones he's talking about are Ravel, Overshone, Clark, those kinds of guys.
Quinn Williams is the guarantee.
Yeah. That's kind of what he's talking about there. So to me, if I'm bringing you in as a defensive coordinator to interview, I am not. Don't come in here and just and kind of hem-haw around and tell me, well, my scheme's this and this is what we're going to do. I need to find a way, and Stephen Jones even said it to us on Friday, an identity. You better establish some type of an identity that satisfies the Joneses. But my hope is that this is an exhaustive search when they make that move for the next coordinator.
Yes, couldn't agree more. Right now, Cowboys are sitting at pick number 13 and pick number 21 because they own Green Bay's first-round pick. So that is as of this morning. If you lose to the Giants...
Green Bay's got a shot to lose today. I mean, they're not playing anybody, but they will fall into the playoff group. And they could be the first team of the playoff group because, I take that back. They will not have the worst record of the playoff group.
Because the NFC South.
The NFC South will have a losing record going into this playoff.
But if you're looking for draft positioning, you want to lose this game, you want Miami to win, you want Atlanta to win, and you could be picking as high as 11.
Yeah.
Or if the Cowboys win and things don't go your way, you end up picking 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some big swings when it comes to the draft order today. All right, just getting started here on the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys. Just over 50 minutes to kick off, and let's get you today's Coach's Corner. Brad Sham, voice of the Cowboys, standing by with Cowboys head coach Bryan Schottenheimer. That's coming up next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
One of the main reasons for poor vehicle performance
outage restrictions and exclusions apply. See att.com/guarantee for full details.
Here we go, just over 45 minutes to kick off Cowboys season finale. Taking on the Giants. We will go into the owner's box with Jerry Jones coming up in a few minutes, but right now it's time for today's Coach's Corner. Here's the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, standing by with Cowboys head coach Bryan Schottenheimer.
All right, fellas, thanks. It's hard to believe this is our last pregame visit for the 2025 season with Bryan Schottenheimer. Has it dragged on or gone by in the blink of an eye?
Blink of an eye, man. I think all the way back to late January last year getting the job, and again, it's flown by. So many lessons to learn, and I really look forward to getting time over the next couple of weeks to really just do a lot of self-reflection and look back at what we did well, things we need to improve, come up with a plan of how we did improve, and really, if you're not going to be in the postseason, you got to maximize this time because you get a little bit of a head start in terms of your self-scout and evaluations.
Babe Laufenberg loves to say, and I quote him all the time, if you want me to tell you who's going to win, you have to tell me who's going to play. So what's your plan at quarterback, and how do you anticipate executing it?
Yeah, again, Dak's going to start the game and play. We're playing to win, and that can get adjusted at some point. Joe's ready to go, and you'll see some fresh faces out there, I'm sure. But excited to see Jaden Blue. He's going to get some game action today, and I think he'll do a really nice job for us. And again, I'm just, when these guys earn these opportunities, I say that they earn these opportunities. You get excited for them because they love to play the game and they want to show what they're capable of doing.
You did a very nice job of glossing over the quarterback question.
Yes.
So I'll try it again.
Okay, good.
Do you anticipate that you have a plan for how long you want Dak to play? You don't have to tell us what that is, but you know how much you want him to play, and you can adjust that along the way, but you also know how much you want Milton to play.
Yeah, and again, I think everything starts with Dak, and again, why? He's the starter. We want to play this game just like we've played all the other games to play to win, but we certainly can adjust that as we go, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not trying to avoid the question. We're going to adjust as this game goes today, and we'll be making some decisions throughout the course of the game to maybe get guys in or to keep guys in.
And if and when Dak comes out, then do Lamb and Pickens come out?
Again, we'll sort through that with those guys. We'll take turns. And unfortunately, we only get a certain amount of guys to play with. The guys were asking me, in the media, you were there for some, about, why don't you play everybody? Well, we only have a certain number of guys. We don't have 90-man rosters. And but again, the objective is to win. And I want to see these guys go out and play well. Hopefully we can play well, get a great start, and maybe see some more young guys go.
You haven't mentioned Phil Maffa. Do you look forward to seeing him play some today?
Yeah, I think so. I think, Phil's been a guy that's worked really hard to get back, and he's had a couple weeks now that he's been back on the practice field. And what I really like about Jaden and Phil is the 1-2 punch. They're very different, and I think that can cause problems, and we're excited to see both those guys get out there and compete a little bit.
The available cornerbacks that you have might be difficult to match up if you're in 7-on-7, which you're not, against the wide receivers that the Giants will run out there. How do you approach that defensively in order to keep from giving up a touchdown every time they've got the ball?
Yeah, again, I think these guys have again a really elite player in Robinson. He's a guy that they move all over the field. He's really good both intermediate, short option routes, but vertical speed. You got to stay on top of him. We have to neutralize him, and of course Slayton's a burner. And Theo Johnson, the tight end's a guy that's got a lot of trust in Jackson Dart, and he can hurt you a lot of different ways, man. He can hurt you throwing, he can hurt you in the run game, and improvising as well.
So I've been eager to ask you this since we left Washington. If you could have picked up the phone and called Marty Schottenheimer that night, what would he have said about you going for it on fourth? I'm sure if it's 6 for 6, he would have said, well, it's a good thing you made him. But what would he have thought about you going for it?
Well, I think he would have said, I hope you plan to do that, because having the ball for 38 minutes is pretty incredible. And we certainly were not cavalier with those decisions. And he would have said, hey, as long as it was part of the plan and you weren't getting overly aggressive and you stuck to the game plan. He was a big guy in terms of sticking to the game plan. He would have been very proud of our execution.
When did you start to get comfortable, and maybe it was before this year, with the idea that punting is optional? You can actually go for it on fourth down, and in fact, you might prefer it.
Yeah, again, I think there's a lot of pressure that's taken off, not in the moment of making the decision, but when you're the head coach and you're the play caller, you have to kind of answer to yourself. And, again, I remember having times in Seattle and other places I've been where, maybe I wanted to go for it, and the head coach, for his reasons and good reasons, decided he didn't want to do that. But, again, I have so much confidence in our guys. One, Ryan Feeder up in the box, our game management coordinator, gives me such great information. And those decisions aren't made in the moment. Like, we talk about that heading into the game, and then as the drive's going, it's like, hey, Shotty, if we get to 4th and 2, we're thinking go for it. And we got a good process going.
And have you had to make a phone call to the play caller this week as the head coach and ask him what's up with scoring touchdowns in the second half?
Yeah, he and I have had a few conversations late at night, and he's kind of leaned into me pretty hard. So hopefully we can find a few more in the second half, and we'll see if he gave me any good advice.
Real quick, give yourself a letter grade before you get a chance to look at the tape and everything else for your first year.
Yeah, again, I think, I've been asked about that. I'd say probably a C, somewhere in that range. I think, ultimately we want to get into the postseason. I think, we did not win enough games, and as the head coach, that's ultimately what we will be evaluated on. And but again, I think we've done some incredible things with the culture. I think we've shown how explosive we can be on offense. I'm very proud of that. There's things we certainly need to clean up on the defensive side of the ball, but really the biggest reason, other than the wins and losses, making the letter grade a C, is my disappointment in the way we did not win the turnover battle. We're better than that. I'm a better coach than that. When you look at teams going on in the postseason, they're up there almost in double digits and beyond in the plus, takeaway, giveaway margin, and we didn't do that this year, and we need to get that cleaned up.
Appreciate your time. Have fun, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, buddy. Always appreciate our time.
All right, fellas, back to you.
Thank you, Brad Sham. Today's Coach's Corner brought to you by Gillette, the official shave of the Dallas Cowboys. And now we are just under 40 minutes to kick off Cowboys season finale at MetLife Stadium, taking on the Giants. Let's go back to MetLife into the owner's box with Jerry Jones. That's coming up next. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Tom Thumb's new Drive Up and Go service makes
Here's Eric Giafalo and Bryan Broaddus.
35 minutes to kick off here on your Cowboys pregame show. Let's go to MetLife, into the owner's box. Jerry Jones and Christy Scales. Christy, take it away.
Well, guys, for our final Owner's Box interview of the season, glorious day here at MetLife. And, Jerry, how important is it for you personally, for Dak to finish the 2025 regular season as the league's leading passer, and how long do you think he's going to play today?
Well, of course, we're so proud of the season he's had. We're proud of Dak. And certainly he's going to open up with us, and we'll see how it goes. But it would be great for us to really support him well out here and play some good defense, and let him add to that total this year.
When
keep our eye on how that game's going, and might want to see some of the other players as well.
He was joking that it might not be a bad day for the Rams to rest Matt Stafford, but I don't think that's going to happen with them today. But when Joe Milton does come in the game, what do you want to see from him?
Well, again, if he comes in the game, but I'd like to see some of the same thing that he did last time he came in the game. Threw a great pass, and I'd like to see him protect that ball.
Because Javonte Williams and Malik Davis are inactive today, we'll get to see Jaden Blue, get to see Phil Maffa along with Hunter Lipke. Are you excited to get a chance to finally see them kind of unleashed a little bit, the rookies?
I am, and I want them to show us how backs are supposed to block so they can protect that quarterback.
As for the defense, with some of the young defensive backs, you've got like Josh Butler coming back. I know that you're without Savone Revel, but what do you see as the challenge for your secondary today against Jackson Dart and this Giants offense? You're playing a little depleted at that cornerback position.
I think they've got their hands full. Dart can really, with his ability to run and make plays with his feet. So it's going to be quite a challenge for those new young guys that are in there. But this is the place that they can create a showing that is a tone setter for how they go from here in their careers. It's important.
What happens once we get back to Dallas? And I know that there are exit interviews for the players, but from the GM standpoint, what are the first things that happen when the season ends?
Well, we get the complete roster. We start analyzing the roster immediately for what we want to look like as we not only move through into the draft and into free agency, but we want to look at that. We'll spend a lot of time, I will, on what we do with evaluate our coaches, evaluate how we can improve everything that, and we've got a lot of room for improvement. But be quite a busy off season for us in these this next month or so as we evaluate total team, and that's just not coaches, that's players, that's everything we've done, personnel, what we've done. All of it will be a very busy time for us.
We appreciate the visit. Thanks so much for the whole season, Jerry. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much. Good to be with you.
You too. All right, as we continue counting down to Cowboys and Giants here at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, let's rejoin Eric and Bryan.
Thank you, Christy. Today's Owner's Box is brought to you by Yeti, the official cooler of the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. When asked about the rookie backs, Blue and Maffa, It's just about running backs got to block.
Got to block.
Protect Dak.
Protect Dak. Hang on to the ball. I think those are the important things. I think Jerry also told you, too, that he's evaluating the coaches as well. Decision might have been made on Matt Eberflus. Now the decisions have to be made on some of the other coaches as well. Depending on who you want to go talk to, if that's the case, that coach might want to bring their own guys along. Jim Swartz, if he's available.
He's right near the top of my list.
Yeah, Matt Patricia, anybody you want to talk to, you've got to think about, though, what are we going to do with your guys? You'll probably, if you move on from Eberflus, what you'll do is you'll keep all the other coaches in place until you hire the defensive coordinator.
See what he wants.
And see what he wants, with the possibility of maybe keeping some guys. If that's not the case, then be ready to move on from those other guys. So the coordinator would likely be first. The other coaches would be held in limbo until the new coach is in place.
Okay, very good. Let's go ahead and get to the Bryan Broaddus Zebra Report.
Yep.
Arrow Exterminators, that is what it's brought to you by, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. What are we in store for today, Broaddus?
Yeah, this is the final one, and the Cowboys draw Adrian Hill as their official today. Adrian has officiated a Giants game, not a Cowboys game this year. He was in Week 10 when the Giants played the Bears. So that's they have had him before. Adrian Hill and his crew, that's the 6th fewest penalties called this year. But what you need to look at, though, is the flags that they have thrown have resulted in the 7th most total penalty yards in the NFL. So this guy is a major infraction rather than a ticky-tack kind of a guy. So need to be aware of the offensive holding, have about almost 3.5 of those a game. The false start, that's something that's kind of a team-related thing. Defensive pass interference and unnecessary roughness would kind of round out the calls that they make. They've been very balanced as far as home and away calls. 97 calls against the home team, 92 calls against the away team. They were very penalty heavy up until Week 7. They were averaging about 18.5 a game up to Week 7. Since then, they've only been averaging 11.4. So maybe this is one of those things that, with it be a final game, you want to kind of keep this game moving along. You don't want to make it about yourself. Get the players on and off the field, and then get the game into the books, and hopefully everybody can move along and no issues from that.
Yeah, that would be ideal. One thing of note today, the Packers locked into the 7th seed there in the NFC wildcard picture. They're going to be resting a significant number of key players today, but Trayvon Diggs will make his Green Bay debut. Yeah. He will see some action today.
I talked to some people the other day in the Green Bay organization, and they asked me about Diggs. And, they were just kind of curious about some of the things. We had a good long talk, and they were saying, we're going to rest exactly just what you said. We're going to rest a lot of guys, and, Diggs is going to get the opportunity to play. They will finish their season in Minnesota. So, Diggs has already got an opportunity. He played the Vikings earlier in the year. We'll see. Minnesota looks like a team that's kind of trying to win football games. They've done a really nice job of it the last, I think they're at 8-8 right now, maybe looking at trying to be 9-8 to finish this thing off, even though they had a losing record here soon, a couple weeks ago.
All right, 27 minutes to your Cowboys kickoff. Let's go inside the booth, live from MetLife Stadium, and have a football conversation with our buddy Babe Laufenberg. That's coming up next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
At Batteries Plus, we don't just sell batteries, we recycle them too. So don't toss your old ones. They're packed with critical materials we can
Cowboys and Specs. The fun starts here.
Shout Specs, low priced amazing. Here's to you. Shout cheers to savings.
All right, we are 20 minutes to kick off for the Cowboys season finale. Great to have you in the official pregame show of America's team. Let's go out to MetLife Stadium and go inside the booth with our buddy Babe Laufenberg, brought to you by the WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Please game responsibly. Babe, how the heck you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. Ready for this game, but I returned from the Rose Bowl game where the Indiana Hoosiers kind of took Alabama behind the woodshed a little bit there.
Yeah, they tore them up, Babe. I'm sure you just
did.
had a ball watching that.
You know, I did, and after the game, so 38-3 was the final. Indiana beat Alabama, and some of the Alabama fans, as I'm walking out, you know, if we had had Saban, and I said, yeah, if you had had Saban, it would have been 38-6 maybe, okay? You were getting beat anyway. Well,
yeah, you guys are the real deal, man. I'll tell you what. I mean, just as physical and dominant and disciplined a team, Signetti, Mendoza, and the rest of those guys, a veteran bunch. Like, you go down the rosters, there's a bunch of 4-year, 5-year guys, been around a while, playing some dang good football, clearly the favorite to be the national champions. Are you going to be going to some of these other games moving forward?
I don't think I'll be traveling. You know, I have a brother who lives in Manhattan Beach, so it was easy for me. You know, we went to the game together. I had a place to stay, but I've kind of traveled enough this year to watch football games, so I think I'll kick the feet up and watch us win the Natty from my couch.
There you go.
I was kind of thinking, I was going to ask you the question if it came down to, like, you guys in Miami, that, like, what, like, if you guys had to